stuck on a painting, afraid that you are going to ruin it. So, what if instead of stopping or not doing anything, you just painted it a few times? Seems simple enough to think about, but it's something that I resisted for a long time. I didn't want to paint the same thing over again. I already did it. So if it didn't come out okay, then oh well, it didn't come out okay. But it's like, but no, I really want to try. So I'm trying something new, acrylic on canvas, which I have shown in a previous video, but I didn't know if that's what I could do quite right. And of course, I could iterate it again and again and again and again. But I did discover a few things, so I wanted to share that with you today. So I iterated this painting 4 times. So that was the first one. This is the second attempt, my third attempt, and the final that I decided it was final. And because I did it 4 times, I gave it a name. So the title of this painting is Obscure to Focus. So the idea of iteration is refining an idea by creating multiple versions, exploring variations, and learning from each attempt, which I can say I did. So the first takeaway that I learned, iteration builds confidence. And it definitely did. Maybe not after the first initial one, but then as things got going and I did a few more, my confidence did increase. So here we are with the first iteration, acrylic on canvas panel. And I was, pretty happy with it. It did what I wanted. The focus is on the e-grid, and this is all supposed to be in fog, but you can tell it's a little bit light. So the second thing that I discovered along the way is small changes make a big impact. So if we take a look at the next one, kind of same size, so I got a little bigger as I went along. And so the change that I made is definitely in the color, right? So this one didn't have anything in the background, whereas this one I did a base color of like a bluish green, like a teal color almost, and then did some colors on top. But I was pretty hesitant once I did put some colors down. It's like, oh, well, I like the way that's looking, and I didn't want to mess it up and keep going. So this is kind of where I stopped there. But it's okay. It's another iteration, right? The third takeaway for me was that unexpected discoveries happen. So what do I mean by that? So for this one was a little bit bigger, definitely bigger, definitely bigger than the first one. The first one, this was the size compared to the second one. My goal that I wanted to practice on was going bigger and also using the acrylic. So I put a brighter tone on the back to see how that would come through. And so then I was like, okay, well, I put paint here and I brought my little, I think it was this tool. I brought this through to kind of make some marks. And I kind of forgot that I'd put the yellow under there and then it came through and I was like, oh, it's supposed to be a foggy day. There wouldn't be rays of light coming through this. Um, but then it kind of was rubbing through up here as well. The other discovery that I made is I was treating the acrylic a lot like my watercolor or gouache, where I water it down. And so I was watering everything down pretty heavily. But I was learning that then, even though acrylic dries and you can't mess with the layer underneath, if it does not totally dry, it's still going to pull. And so it was pulling up when I was trying to lay down the gray and then the white. But some of the overall effect I still like here in the water and the reflection, although this reflection is a little like overkill, but I think I just got tired and I didn't want to go over it anymore. My fourth takeaway or fourth discovery is that not every version needs to be a masterpiece. But in my case, not even the final one was a masterpiece, but it was where I had a stopping point for now. So then here is the last one. So the last one is actually a little shorter. So this is a 16 by 16, and this was a 16 by 20, and there's the extra inches there. So this is a 16 by 16. I wanted to try on a real canvas, like one that might hang in a gallery. And the requirements for that is that the has to be gallery wrapped, which that is an inch and a half thick. So that's what I painted on for the final. And I think I'm happy with the final. The edges, not quite. I wasn't quite like sure or didn't really plan too far ahead. So I just kept, putting on some layers and covering it. In retrospect, I would do that a little different or just tape off the edges. However, focusing on the iterations and the art, there's still a little bit of brighter coming through, but not as much as the last. And I do like what's going on down here in the water and the reflection. And I think this is nicely muted to tell that there's a sky there and that's part of the lagoon there, but sort of obscured. And I tried to do some of the lighter tones here to take the eye back down to the egret, which was the focus. So last takeaway that I had is that your artistic voice emerges through repetition. So I think I definitely saw, I don't know, yeah, my artistic voice coming through because while the iterations were slightly different, and of course the composition was about the same because it was the same scene that I was referring to. But there are certain things that are the same, obviously the drawing of the egret and some of the strokes. But I mean, this one you can clearly kind of tell it's unfinished. So I can kind of when I look at this one, I can feel what I feel when I look at this one is like, I don't know what to do next. Tell me somebody help. Whereas the first one, I was just trying to get the concept down, and this one feels like innocent for me. It's like, okay, cool. You didn't know what you were doing, but you tried, and that's what counted. That's what this feels like. And this one just feels a little bit different. But I also wanted to talk about the process of iteration. And for this one, I didn't iterate it in the sketchbook a bunch of times first. It was only once in a sketchbook with watercolor and some Neocolor twos and some colored pencils. But actually, this one is sort of the same scene, but sans fog. Like this was not a foggy day, this was like a sunny day. But same kind of scene, I just changed the temperature, so to speak. Iteration is something that I do even before I was like, oh, I don't want to paint the same thing over and over again. But when I went back through my sketchbook, I realized that is exactly what I do. So here's a scene of Bataquito's Lagoon. Here is another scene of Bataquito's Lagoon, but obviously on a windy day. You can't see so much of the path, but it's still the same thing. Mountains in the background, little sliver of the lagoon there. Keep that there. And here's another iteration of the lagoon again. And in here, I have even another iteration. Let me scoot this one over maybe. I have a couple more iterations here, another one there. So there's a nice little representation of iteration. So I had been doing iterations before, but this didn't really it didn't count. It's in the sketchbooks. So, but it is something that I did. So I think when I stopped and realized that, I thought, okay, I think I also thought that maybe I'm wasting things, wasting canvas, wasting paint, practicing on the canvases. But I mean, if I want to do something different, that's what it's going to take. So the biggest thing that I learned is it's not just doing it once, one and done. It's about doing a little bit more of exploration. I think my takeaways are that there's discoveries to be made in painting the same thing over and over again, and it can be fun. I think pushing myself to try a new medium and a new way, painting on canvas. It would even change how I was painting. I was painting standing up and with, bigger strokes. And for some reason, I think I'm craving that movement or bigger strokes to make. So I'll see where this iteration path takes me. But I wanted to share my findings and takeaways with you. So what do you think? Is iteration something that you regularly incorporate into your practice, or is it something you're considering, or something you don't even think about? So I know it was something that I was avoiding. So I'm happy now that I have uh, jumped in the deep end on this one. But let me know if you have any questions. And I want to know your experiences with iteration. What has it been like for you? What did you learn or discover? And do you continue to do that even now? So if you liked any part of this video, please like and subscribe. Thanks for watching.